Happy National Postage Stamp Day. And, happy Canada Day. July 1st is National Canada Day, an important day for Canada and therefore the world. But why is it National Postage Stamp Day? Because America's first postage stamp was released July 1st, 1847. The Ben Franklin 5-cent stamp. We're going to talk about the official tribute to the Statue of Liberty, 1986, with this covers collection. Put out by this company called the Postal Commemorative Society, the PCS. Now, they would hook you up with a U.S. #1 for $600. And this was around 1993. Then they put out this set of covers. They were originally made in 1986. This sell sheet is from 1993, where they're like, we discovered in our warehouse, we have a few more of these. We can hook you up with $6 per cover, 48 total. That's something like $295 for this, which is this. Okay. You can currently get them on eBay for like $30 to $40. $30 to $40, most of which is shipping. So this collection we're going to look at, someone paid $300 for in 1993 or maybe 1986. And you can read this sell sheet. It's kind of just jam-packed with weasel words, and they're telling you it's going to be a family-cherished heirloom for decades to come. It is pretty cool. I like it. I like it, current year, current price. But could you imagine being seduced by the Postal Commemorative Society years ago, thinking you had this cherished piece? Tastes change, markets change, and for current year, current price, you get to learn about each of these countries, and you get to learn each card tells you about the country and a very detailed fact about the Statue of Liberty. But what is a first day cover? This actually explains it well. You have your handmade, handsome cachet, and then you have the stamp from each of the countries. Several of them have more than one stamp. And then you have the first day of issue postmark. So someone designed this, printed this, put the stamp on it, hand canceled, and then you can even get a personalized with your name and address. Central African Republic is the first in here. That is indeed in Central Africa. I kind of just want to show these stamps, and I'm obviously not going to read everything. This talks about the symbolism that Bartholdi put into the Statue of Liberty. We'll flip through this. I'm going to obviously mispronounce a lot of the country names. So Central African Republic, it says it's the size of Texas. It was formerly French Equatorial Guinea, so a lot of the countries that participated in this were former French republics. Also, I kind of would like to do a deep dive on the PCS and how all this came about, because I think they were literally in cahoots with governments of these countries. These stamps were not made for postal use within the countries. They were made just to create souvenir collectible exports. It's a big industry. At least it was in the 80s and 90s. I don't think stamp collecting, philately, has really held up. But I like it. It was my first love as a child. And I would stare at this when I was young and just imagine all the places in the world. Anguilla. That is, of course, in the Caribbean. And two beautiful stamps here with some ships. And there's your cachet. And this has to do with, the height and weight of the Statue of Liberty. This is where Mauritania, Northwest Africa, a former French colony, though it is Arabic today. I think that's pretty cool. And this it's talking about fundraising for the Statue of Liberty. Grenadines, I know that's in the Caribbean. Croton Reservoir and the New York Public Library. And this talks about Columbus hit this island before going further north. And this has to do with, it's talking about Bedloe's Island and the selection of, you know, the location where Lady Liberty ended up. Norfolk Island, I believe, is near Australia. There's Australia, there's New Zealand. That arrow shows Norfolk, South Pacific. And this talks about the repousse technique of building the copper. It was hammered into wood to get the sheets. Okay. And this, I think you would say Lesotho. I don't know. And that is an independent nation inside of South Africa. Felix Adler and Bela Bartok. These people have probably no relation to the Statue of Liberty. It talks about the Switzerland of Southern Africa. Then it's just talking about Lady Liberty's copper. Bahamas, we know that. That's in the Caribbean. And it's between Florida and Cuba. This, I think, talks specifically about Lady Liberty's torch. Maldives. And that is off the coast of India. Walter Gropius and John Lennon. Interesting. And I think this is talking about the fundraising for Liberty's base. Atutaki, that is one of the Cook Islands. So off the coast, there's Australia, there's New Zealand. It is one of the Cook Islands. Beautiful stamp. Designing a suitable base. Okay, that has to, yeah, it's talking about Richard Morris Hunt, who is a prominent American architect. He built, like, you know, the Vanderbilt homes and stuff. Very prominent during the so-called Gilded Age. And he did design and build the base of the Statue of Liberty. This is Liberty and Sanity. I don't know if I even said this. Is Liberty and Sanity 99? Or I showed you this presentation piece. There's the U.S. cover. This is not by PCS. This is by the Danbury Mint, I think, or the Franklin Mint. Franklin Mint. So this is covered in, which was a mess of a video. We were fostering some dogs, some puppies back then. Grenada, that's in the, I thought it was in the Caribbean, but it's way down closer. It's still Caribbean, right? It says West Indies. We don't really use that term anymore, but it's closer to South America. Who was the model for the Statue of Liberty? It was Bartholdi's mother. Sierra Leone, Times Square, old images. Sierra Leone is northwest Africa. This is talking about Joseph Pulitzer's involvement. This one, I know you pronounce as Niue. It's, yeah, I had to teach myself how to say it. Niue. And that is off the coast of Australia. Self-governing dependency of New Zealand. There's your cachet, which is just, let's see if it says how tiny they are. And there's the stamp. This is Lady Liberty being built in Paris. And this is talking literally about what's on the stamp. So, Lady Liberty was fully constructed in Paris before being disassembled, shipped to the U.S., waiting in boxes for the pedestal to be completed. And of course, a lot of Parisians were like, this is beautiful, why can't we just keep it? Cook Islands, there you go. And this is talking about Lady Liberty's birthday, October 28th, 1886. The day she was officially dedicated. There was a bit of a storm. President Cleveland gave a speech. And of course, Bartholdi gave a speech. This is the French stamp, which is a joint issue with the United States. Although the United States stamp or cover is not in this book. Okay, and this is talking about dismantling and packing into 200 crates. The ship left France May 21st, 1885, and she was not officially complete and dedicated until October 28th, 1886. The Gambia is Northwest Africa, and this is talking about Eiffel's involvement. Let's see who's on these stamps. Jacob Rees, John Jacob Astor. Now we're in Redonda, also in the Caribbean. And you see how this country's stamps look like that country's stamps that look like a lot of others. Anyway, this is Hans Hoffman and Michael Pupin. I don't know. Oh, this has to do with the Philadelphia exhibition in 1876. And Barbados, we know, is in the Caribbean. And Ameripex was one of the stamp collectors conventions of 86. This has to do with how he portrayed Lady Liberty, like the actual statue and what it's meant to symbolize. Liberia. There's a little bit about Liberia history, and that seems to be more about Eiffel's involvement. There's Bartholdi, and that represents. Oh, that's the that's a depiction of the Edward Moran painting from the dedication day. I've talked about that before. Antigua and Barbuda in the Caribbean. October 24th, 1881 marked the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Yorktown. This seems to be talking a bit about, the people assembling the Statue of Liberty in America. There. The torch on display in Madison Square Park, 1885. So this was the phase where, this is not the torch displayed at the Philadelphia World's Fair. This was in Madison Square Park, New York, waiting for the rest of the pedestal to be complete and the rest of the statue to be assembled. So when it was finally assembled, 1886, the torch had already begun to weather and patina because it had been toured around for 10 plus years. And then, you probably heard the rest of the statue was bright, fresh copper. This is Togo in Africa. This, I think, has to do with the weathering. The Black Tom event. I guess this is called Penrhyn. Another one of the Cook Islands. This has to do with the Lady Liberty, the smaller Lady Liberty in Paris. I've talked about that before on Bastille Day. This is, that's Lady Liberty being assembled first in Paris. Uganda, Central Africa. This has to do with the Irving Berlin musical called Miss Liberty, which came out in 1949. I've listened to this on YouTube, and I thought it was mildly interesting. Let me see if I can summarize it So, it's set in, 1885 or 1886, and there's Lady Liberty in New York. Everyone's impressed. Everyone's enthralled by this beautiful, magnificent, colossal statue. And someone, like the journalists at the New York World are like, well, who is the model? Who is the model? We need to go to France and find Bartholdi anyway, they find this lady who says she was the model. And they bring her back to the U.S., and she's a fraud. Because it's well known. He modeled the face, at least, after his mother. But this lady is, trying to claim to be the model for the Statue of Liberty. And anyway, the journalist falls in love, and it was a popular musical. Irving Berlin, you probably know, because he wrote White Christmas. Belize. There's the head on display in the Paris World's Fair. The torch was on display in Philadelphia, and this is Belize in Central America. And this, this talks about the Statue of Liberty's early years as an active lighthouse until 1902. So only, about 14 years. Where are we now? Palau, an island north of Australia. Oh, that's right. 86 was also the UN International Year of Peace. This talks about 1916, how Woodrow Wilson and more private funding improved the lighting of the Statue of Liberty. Bhutan, which is north of India. And this is talking about war bonds, Liberty bonds for WW1. Montserrat, where is this? The Caribbean. Beautiful stamp, beautiful cancellation. And this is continuing the story about the 1916 lighting modification. Guts and Borglum's involvement. That's, of course, the sculptor of Mount Rushmore. He redesigned the torch. See, you almost never hear about this. Guinea, Africa, and I think this is talking about how gift from France, but she took on a very unique and distinct American identity. Oh, this one's real nice. Love it. That might be my favorite stamp in here. The Marshall Islands, which again is off the coast of Australia. This is Emma Lazarus' poem. We read this on Mother's Day. St. Vincent, it's probably more like Saint Vincent, and that's a Caribbean nation. It's talked about Old Fort Wood that Statue of Liberty was built on top of. Beautiful. Paraguay, which is, of course, in South America. It talks about the Museum of Immigration, which is now just the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island National Monument. British Virgin Islands. Joseph Pulitzer. I don't know. You can read that on your own time, on your own dime. I just love first day covers. I like the unique artwork of the cachet, the stamp, the cancellation, and it's a great presentation piece because you get all this extra information. When I was a tiny insanity tot, I would just look at stamps all day. Stamp collecting is such a, well, it can be such an affordable hobby for children if you're collecting used stamps. Ascension Island? Wow. But anyway, in 86, they were not printing stamps and doing all this. Did any part of this presentation ever actually come from Ascension Island? There's no way. I really want to investigate more. I want to learn more about the Postal Commemorative Society. I do know that they are not still around. I think aspects of it were renamed into kind of like postage and coin. You could still get these sort of collections with coins. But they wanted to get your money with these presentations for every theme. Djibouti, right? Africa, very cool. Oh, here's a great one. Wow. Okay, what a great image here. It's showing the torch as displayed 1876 Philadelphia and the head as displayed 1878 Paris. And there's a great image of Bartholdi. Great looking cancellation. Now these two were never displayed on pedestals in the same place until Paris. The torch had to be sent back to Paris, and then the torch was sent to New York on its own. So first Philly, well, then back to Paris, then New York, Madison Square Park, and then final assembly. This talks about Liberty Weekend, July 3rd, 1986. That was a big to-do. I want to do a whole video on that one day. That's a great looking stamp. Monaco, that is a nation inside of Italy. October 28th, 1986, the Statue of Liberty had lifted her shining torch of freedom above New York Harbor for exactly 100 years. 1,500 people, including French and American officials, gathered on Liberty Island. I'm telling you, it was a big to-do, big televised to-do with bands and Ronald Reagan giving a speech. Oh, wow. Miquelon, Saint-Pierre Miquelon. This is, you're not going to believe this. This is a little island off the coast of Canada. Let's see what it says. 10 miles south of Newfoundland is a French territory. Overseas Department of the French Republic. 10 miles from Canada. 10 miles from North America. Oh, by the way, happy Canada Day. This was not made on that island. Okay, I gotta get to my note. The torch was removed and completely replaced in 1916. It sounds like it's kind of critical of Guts and Borglum's contribution in 1916. But I meant to say it was completely replaced in 86. The big 100-year restoration and rededication effort. I talk about it all the time. Senegal. And we have two more. Mali, Africa. And the last one is apparently Benin, also in Africa. And this talks about the vertigrade patina. I've been your host, Toy Insanity, National Postage Stamp Day 2023. Liberty Insanity 99. July 1st. Happy National Postage Stamp Day. Happy Canada Day.